What's up YouTube photographer Ron Expert and Auto. In this tutorial you are going to be learning skin retouching and color grading in Photoshop from the very start to the very end, so stick around for this very nice and wonderful lesson that you are going to be learning and understanding frequency separation, color grading, eye and teeth whitening, and so much in this very tutorial. So if at all you don't have enough time, simply like this video and you can as well save it and come back and watch it later on. So we are going to be learning frequency separation and how to process raw files before opening them into Photoshop. So in order to open up an image into Photoshop, you simply have to select your image or your photos, and after selecting it, simply drag and drop it into Photoshop. You can simply right click on the images and simply open with Photoshop. So just going to open mine right here into Photoshop. And this is the image that we're going to be dealing with for this case, and it was a raw file, as you can see. So every single time you open up a raw photo within Photoshop, it is going to automatically open up the camera raw filter for you. So this is the photo that we want to deal with. So the very first thing is going to be correcting the lighting and contrast issues regarding its very image. You can see that we have some highlights that are a little bit blown out. So I'm just going to come and first of all reset it to the default. So this is the image that we have right now. You can see the shadows are a little bit clipped right here. So what I would do, I'll simply come and take the highlight slider down just a little bit, around 25, and I'll do the same for the whites. Then I'll come to the shadows and open up the shadows slightly to get back the detail in the hair right there. Now come and add contrast to the image, and I'll simply slightly brighten up the image a little bit. Now take the black slider down a little bit. So this is so far the before and after. Then I feel like the highlights are a little bit too much. I'll simply drop them a little bit more. Then I'll come to the temperature slider right here, and temperature is how warm or how cool you want the image to be. So when I take the temperature slider up, you can see it is going to make the image more yellow, and the opposite side is going to be blue. So I'll just come and slightly warm up the image to around 5400 kelvins. That is fine. And tint, you can either add a given color regarding greens or magentas within the image by moving the tint slider. So after I've corrected the lighting and contrast issues regarding the image, the next thing is going to be opening the image into Photoshop to do the other corrections on the image. So I'll just come and make sure to change the bit depth of the image. So in order to change the bit depth of the image, simply come and click right down here and simply left click and change the bit depth to 16-bit, because I prefer to edit 16-bit images because these tend to carry more information and gives you like a better looking image. Then what I'll do in this case, I'll just come to the output sharpening and simply sharpen for screen and leave the amount to standard. So after doing that, I'm just going to come right here and simply click OK. Then come to this option that says cancel, done, and open. So simply click on, you left click on done, and the image is going to open into Photoshop for us to do the other corrections regarding this very image. So as soon as you import the image into Photoshop, you can notice that it's going to be containing 16, meaning the image is going to be 16-bit. But don't mind if at all you're having an 8-bit image. So in order to change the bit depth of the image, you can simply, or to understand the bit depth of the image, simply come to image mode, and you can see mine is 16-bit. And if at all you want to change your image to 8-bit, simply select 8 and you can simply change the image to 8-bit. So after importing the image into Photoshop, the next thing is going to be cropping the image. So I'm just going to come and get the crop tool rather right here and change the ratio to 4:5 or 8:10 because this format is supported by Instagram. So I'll just crop this image into a ratio of 4:5 or 8:10. So I feel like I need it right there. So depending on the purpose of your image, you have to crop it in that kind of format that you want to use the image later on for. So just come and hit enter to approve my crop settings. So it is now cropping the image, and you can notice that it's taking a while trying to fill in this. The reason for this is because the content aware option was turned on. So for faster results, always make sure that before you press the enter key, make sure that the content aware option is not turned on. So right now we are done cropping the image, and the next thing is going to be understanding or editing this image regarding the skin. So you can see when you zoom into the image, you can see that we have blemishes right here and there, and we have uneven skin tone transition. So we're just going to be using a technique known as frequency separation to edit the skin and make it look better and uniform in this case. So what is frequency separation? Frequency separation is a skin retouching technique that is going to divide the image into the colors and the textures. So by dividing the image, we simply want to refine the textures alone and also refine the colors alone separately, so that we can end up with a nicely retouched image after combining both the colors and textures that have been perfected or edited in this case. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come and create those two layers. So with the background layer selected, make sure it is locked in this case. Just come and press Ctrl J on the keyboard. You can press it Ctrl J 2 times to create those two layers. So when I press Ctrl J, you can see it is creating these two layers. Then if at all you are using Mac, you can use Command J. Just press Command J twice, and that is going to create those layers for you. But if at all you don't, or you're not conversant with the shortcuts, you can simply select the background layer right here, and you drag it to the new layer icon 2 times to create these two layers. So after creating the two layers, to rename the layers, simply double click right there. You simply left click on the name, and you can name this to. For this case, we're just going to name this to the color. So if I told you find the word low frequency layer, it also means the same. So I'm just going to name this up layer to the textures. So just want to divide the image into the colors and the textures. So like we have been able to name these right here, we want to remain with the information regarding each single name. So for this case, we have color and texture. So in this color layer, we are going to be remaining with the colors, and also in the texture layer, we are going to be remaining with the textures or the details of this very image. So I'll simply come to the color layer first of all and select it, and come to this eye icon or the visibility icon, and I'll simply come and turn off the visibility icon of the texture layer. And after turning it off, we are going to come and we apply a filter that is going to hide the textures from this very image. So after selecting the color layer, you can simply come to filter, then you're going to come to blur and come down to Gaussian blur. So remember, this is the most important step when it comes to editing images using frequency separation. This is the most important step. So if I told you I've been having issues regarding remaining with information or skin texture after editing your images, this is why you have to pay maximum attention. So what I would do, you have to look for an area on the skin that seems to have more skin textures. So I'm just going to click right here and hover around. So this area seems to have more skin details. The reason for choosing this area is because we want to blur out these textures from the skin so that we can only remain with the colors. So the reason for choosing the prominent or the most evident skin textures is because when we start losing out on these textures, it means even the smallest textures in the skin are also going to be lost out of this very image. So I'll just come to the radius and simply left click on this slider and hold down and simply drag it up just like that. So we're going to take up the radius slider up to a point when we are just starting to lose out on these details. Just stop at the point when you're just starting to lose out on the details. So I'm just going to, you can see at 7, that is when I'm just starting to lose out on the details. So For your image, you always have to stop at the point whereby you're just starting to lose out on the skin details. So your radius may be different from the one I'm using in this very case. So mine is at 7.0 pixels, and I'll click OK. So as you can notice, when we do this, the image is going to look out of focus and it's going to be looking blurry, and it's going to be lacking textures on the skin area. So what we want to do for the next step, we're just going to come to the texture layer and now activate it and click on the eye icon to bring back or to make it more visible once again. Then we're going to come right here to image, and we're going to come to apply image. So when you come to apply image right here, the next thing is going to be only remaining with the textures in the selected layer, which is the texture layer. So remember at the start of this tutorial, I told you that we have 8-bit images and 16-bit images. Mine right here is 16-bit right here, and I showed you how you can locate or understand the bit depth of your images or your photos. So mine is 16-bit. So I'll just come to the layer option and simply select the color layer. The reason for selecting the color layer is because we want to extract the textures from affecting the color layer. So just come and select the color layer right here under the layer option. Make sure the channel is set to RGB, and make sure the blend mode for a 16-bit image right here is set all the way to add, and make sure the scale is 2 and offset 0. Then opacity has to be 100%. Preserve transparency and mask are not checked, and simply come and turn on the invert option. With the preview option turned on, you can see that we have the textures on this gray layer, which is lacking colors, meaning we have only remained with the textures in the color layer. But if at all you're working with an 8-bit image, if at all you have 8 right here, simply use the settings that I'm going to be showing you in this first step. So for an 8-bit image, simply come and select the color layer and make sure the channel is set to RGB. The invert option make sure that it is not turned on. The blend mode for an 8-bit image is going to be subtract. The scale has to be 2 and offset 128. So just type in 2 and 128 right here. Make sure the opacity is 100%. Preserve transparency and mask are not checked right here. And you can see that we have the same results right here. So I'll just change mine back to the 16-bit settings. So I'll just invert this and simply click OK. So remember right now the image is showing this gray layer and it is lacking colors. So we're going to come to the blend mode right here and change it from normal and change it all the way down to linear light, and that blend mode is going to hide anything that is gray from the image. So right now we are done separating the textures from the colors in this very image. So in order to prove this, or to see if at all we have successfully done this, we are going to select both layers by pressing Ctrl. You can use Command and left clicking on both layers and dragging these two layers, or the selected two layers of color and texture, to the folder icon to put them in a group, and you can rename that group to frequency separation. I'll just name mine to FS. So like I said, there shouldn't be a difference between the original background image and this. So if at all I hide the background image, you can see that we only have the same image, and if at all I hide this, there is no difference at all affecting this very image. So if at all we hide this and come and select this and we open these individual layers, you can see this is only the colors, and if at all I select this and hide this, you can see this is only the textures. So we have successfully divided this very image. So the next thing is going to be editing and retouching this very image. So we want to perfect the colors alone and also perfect or refine the textures alone regarding this very image. So we are going to come right here and simply hide the texture layer. The reason for hiding it is because as we are working on the colors, we don't want to be distracted by the textures in the image or in the photo. So I'll just come right here and simply select the color layer right here. And after selecting the color layer, we are going to come under the brushes and right click and select the mixer brush tool. So if at all your mixer brush tool is not showing under the brushes option, simply right click here and you can locate your mixer brush tool under these 4 dots right there. So for whichever tool that you select in Photoshop, the settings for that tool are always going to appear or display right above here. You can see these are the settings. So I've selected the mixer brush tool and the settings for the mixer brush tool are displaying right above here. So these are settings you have to use when you're trying to edit your images, and you may find different settings, so you always have to work and see the settings that work for your images. So for this tutorial, I'll give you my own settings and what I use when I'm trying to use the mixer brush tool. So just come right here and make sure the hardness of the brush is set all the way to 0% right there, and I'll simply select soft round brush. And after doing that, just come and make sure the brush is clean. The reason for this is because as we are editing, we want Photoshop to automatically clean the brush for us, because as we are working on different areas of the skin, we don't want the brush to carry color from one area to another, because the skin is containing different colors all the way. So select an option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke. So it's when we select these two options, clean brush, and also the option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke, we are commanding Photoshop to automatically clean the brush as it's trying to edit or work on different areas of the skin. So make sure the weight is set all the way to 9%, because we don't want the brush to spill color and over soften the image. With a load of 75%, mix at 90%, flow at 100%, come and make sure that sample all layers is not turned on, because when you leave this turned on, and for example you leave the texture layer turned on accidentally and you try painting on the skin, you can see that the brush is painting back textures, because you have commanded the mixer brush tool to sample information from both layers and paint them on the selected layer. That is why the brush is painting this black or annoying color onto the skin. So I'm just going to undo that, and to undo simply press Ctrl Z to undo, or you can use Command Z to undo. So to zoom in or zoom out the image, you can use Ctrl plus on the keyboard, then Ctrl minus is going to be zooming out. So Ctrl plus to zoom in, then Ctrl minus to zoom out. So after setting the mixer brush tool, make sure that sample all layers is not turned on. So let me go back through the settings. Mixer brush tool is selected, clean brush is selected, clean brush after each and every stroke, the second option is selected. With the weight of 9, load 75, mix at 90, flow at 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not turned on, and just come and hide the texture layer. So after setting up the mixer brush tool, if at all your mixer brush tool is showing a plus icon, simply press the caps lock key on the keyboard. And if at all you're trying to edit, always make sure to edit at a distance. So don't zoom all the way in, because when you do this, you can't see the uneven skin tone transitions in the image. So always retouch at a distance, because this is going to also help you save a lot of time. So you are not going to start perfecting the colors of the skin of the model. So to increase or decrease on the size of the mixer brush tool, we can use the bracket keys on the keyboard, and the left bracket is going to reduce on the size and the right bracket is going to increase on the size of the mixer brush. So when we're done doing that, the next thing is going to be applying or smoothing or blending the colors of the skin. So make sure that the size of the brush is slightly small and you mix colors that are looking alike. So in order to mix, simply left click and hold down. So you left click and hold down and you apply and you paint on the skin just like that. So you left click and paint just like that. So when you're done mixing a given color, release the left click button and you come and mix another color just like that. So for whichever different color that you're working on, always make sure you release the left click button and paint on another area. So you can see that the image is looking a little bit plastic when we start applying our mixer brush tool. So where these colors are transitioning from one color to another, reduce on the size by using the open bracket on the keyboard and simply blend that color, and come and also work on this other highlight area just like that. But you can notice that the image is looking a little bit plastic as we're using this kind of mixer brush tool technique to blend the transitions within the skin. So when I come back and I turn on the texture layer, you can notice that the textures are still left intact within the image, and we have just blended the colors. You can see before and after for just working on that forehead area. So I'll just come and hide the texture layer and select the color layer once again, and now reduce on the size and how to move the strokes of the brush. For a nose, you can't move it in this direction. You have to follow the direction of a given area. So for the nose, I'll make sure the brush is small enough to keep within the darkest parts of the nose and move it in an up down kind of direction, just like that. And come this other side and also mix colors in this dark area of the nose, just like that. So the reason for moving the brush in this direction is because we don't want to change or alter the original shape of the model's face. So for the highlight area, I'll reduce on the size of the brush and also paint on only the brightest point of the nose, and that is going to keep and also retain the original shape of the model's nose rather. So I'll just come and continue working just like that. So we are now done working on the nose. Always check on your progress by turning this off. You can see before, after, before, after. So I'll just come and continue working on the skin by coming and hiding the texture layer and come and work on the chin or cheek area just like that. So for the cheek area, it is moving in this direction. So I'll just come and slightly increase on the size of the brush and mix this color once again and mix the brightest point right here of the, just like that. So you can see I'm following how a given area is shaped. Reduce on the size and also, so you have to take your strokes of the brush gradually because you don't want to skip out or leave out some areas accidentally. So I'm just going to mix those areas, mix those, come to the darkest point and mix that like that. Come right here and also mix, and you can see it has taken away the highlight which was existing in that area. So like I said, always retouch at a distance, and you can see this is going to get you better and faster results just like that. So always take your time as you're trying to do this very step. So just come and keep on checking on the progress. You can see before, after. So just come and hide this and continue working. You can see that we have these dark areas right here. So I'll come and get a smaller brush and also work on those areas. So don't mind if at all you miss out some areas as you're using the Mr. Brush tool, because I'm going to be showing you another technique that is going to get you better results. So work and mix on the skin and make sure that every area has been blended well regarding the skin tones. So you can see so far, I'm just going to zoom out slightly. So you can see this is the image before, after, before, after. So I'll just come and hide the texture layer and just come and continue working on these areas just like that. So just come and continue working on every area that you feel contains skin. So just come the collarbone right there, mix the shadow alone right there. And as you're seeing, I'm working or I'm retouching this image at a distance because I don't want to distort the original color or the original shape of the model's face. So I'll just come and work there, come this other side and also work and blend this area just like that. Reduce on the size if at all you're working on a smaller area, and come and also mix and blend, come and increase and also come and blend this other area just like that. So I'll just come and continue working on the hand area just like this. Reduce on the size and also continue working on these other areas just like this. So I'm just going to be doing this until when I feel like the hand is also perfectly retouched, because every area that contains skin always has to be edited if at all you want to have perfect results regarding your skin retouching in Photoshop. So I'm just going to be doing this. So I'm going to paint on every area. So remember, for this step we are just learning how to use the mixer brush tool to create even transitions within the skin tone of our model. So I'm just going to be doing this. So I think we are done working on the skin area using the mixer brush tool. So let's see our results so far. This is the image before after. You can see how nicely done this has gotten to be. So you can as well come to this area of the eye, reduce on the size, and also mix just below or beneath the eyebrow, just there, and also perfect those areas. Remember, the more time you're going to be taking editing, the better the results are going to be at the end of the process. So I'm just going to come and perfect this area just like that. So when you're done using or mixing the skin using the mixer brush tool, this is what we have as the before after. The next thing is going to be perfecting the areas that we may have missed out as we are using the mixer brush tool. We are going to come and select the lasso tool right here. So just come and get the lasso tool and make sure it is in new selection mode right there. So just come and make sure the feathering is 22 pixels. The reason for this is because if at all you have 0 pixels, for example, just type in 0 and you come and make a selection on the skin area. If at all I press Q1 on the keyboard, Q is a shortcut to show you the mask preview. You can see that the selection that we just made on the skin is having this sharp line right there, and which we don't want. So I'm just going to press Q once again to hide that, and to deselect, click out from the selection. So what I'm going to do, I'll just come and make sure the feathering is set to 22 pixels because I just want the edges of the selection. So if at all I make a selection right there and I press Q once again, you can see that this is a way smoother edge of the selection. So we just want that kind of selection that is smooth. So what I will do, I'll just come and zoom in to the skin. So this time you have to zoom in if at all you're using the lasso tool step. So after zooming in, just come and make a selection on the skin. So just to draw a selection, simply left click and move around just like that. So keep away from the edges of the face and keep away from the eyebrows or even the hair. So just come and keep within this area of the skin. So what you have to take into consideration, always make sure that the selection you make is following a shape of a given area. So just come back to filter, blur, and come down to Gaussian blur right there. And when you're done doing this, it's going to bring up the previously used Gaussian blur radius for your image. So just come to the radius and simply start taking it up to a point when you feel like you're having a very nice and natural skin texture. So around 21 pixels, that is when I'm having a nice looking texture which is looking natural. So after I have done this, simply hit OK. And the hack you can use, or a trick you can use, for the radius that you had for your frequency separation, just multiply that radius by 3. So 7 by 3 is 21. I'll just come and type in 21 right there. I'm just going to come and type in 1, and you can see the texture is basically the same. So just come and hit OK. So for whichever radius that you use for your frequency separation, just come and multiply that radius by 3 and type in that value. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom out just like that and come right here and simply deselect from that area, or to deselect that selection. Come to the cheek area just like that and make a selection following the shape. Come to filter and come to blur and come down to Gaussian blur, and it's going to apply that Gaussian blur. And if at all the effect is too much, right click on the selection and you can simply fade or reduce on the effect. So right click on the selection, then you can come and fade the Gaussian blur right here. So just come to fade and simply fade or reduce on the effect if at all it is too much for your liking. So I'll do the same for every area in the face that has skin. So just come, filter, blur, and come to Gaussian blur right there. Hit OK and apply it just like that. The shapes I'm making are following the original shape of the model's face. The reason for this is because we don't want to change or alter the original shape of the model's face. So So I'm just going to be doing that. Come to the chin rather, and make that shape. Come to filter, blur, come to Gaussian blur, and I'll come to this nose. So when it comes to the nose area, I'm just going to come and apply it on the shadow area of the nose, just like that. Come back to filter, blur, and come to Gaussian blur. And I'm just going to come this other side of the shadow area of the nose, and also come to filter, blur, and come down to Gaussian blur right there, and hit OK. So when we are done applying this, the next thing is going to be removing the skin imperfections or blemishes from this very image, or the pimples and acne from this very image. So I'm just going to be doing this. So I think this is okay. So when you're done using the lasso tool, remember we have been working entirely on the colors of the image. So you can see before, after, before, after. So anything is going to be removing the blemishes or skin imperfections in this very image. So in order to remove blemishes, we are simply going to come and select the texture. Remember, blemishes are part of the textures. So I'll just come and select the clone stamp tool and make sure the mode is set to normal, and come and make sure the hardness is set to 0%, opacity in the flat 100%. Make sure align is selected, and stamp has to be set to current layer, because we don't want sample information from the color layer. So textures are part of the current layer. So just come and make sure you select current layer. And now after doing that, zoom into the image and look for the areas that are having blemishes. For example, this pimple right there. We are going to increase on the size of the clone stamp tool by using the bracket keys on the keyboard, like we use for the mixer brush tool. So hold down the alternate key on the keyboard if at all you're using Windows. Then if at all you're using Mac, simply hold down the option key and hold it down. Look for an area that is clean next to the blemish. Hold it down, left click to copy that clean area. Make sure that the size of the clone stamp tool is bigger than the blemish, and click over the blemish you left click over the blemish to replace it with the clean area. Let me go again. So you hold down the alternate key on the keyboard, or you can use the option key, and copy clean area by left clicking, and simply release the alternate key on the keyboard and simply left click over the blemish to replace it with the area that we previously copied from a clean area. But always copy from a nearby area to keep and have nice looking colors that are going to be uniform for your case and your liking as a person editing. So right now we are done removing those tiny skin imperfections. So you can take your time doing this. So I'm just going to use command, and you can just come this lower part of the body and also perfect. If at all you're not comfortable with this kind of scar right here, hold down the alternate and copy and drag using the clone stamp tool, and that is going to erase or remove these kinds of scars right there. So right now we are done removing these blemishes, and the next thing is going to be color grading, because we just want uniform skin tones for this model. So this is the before and after for just the skin retouching and the blemish removal process. So if at all you want to color grade this very image, we just want to sample colors and we have uniform skin tones for this kind of model. So in order to have uniform skin tones, we're just going to come right here to the gradient map option and simply single click right there, and it's going to open up the properties right here. So when it comes to the properties, just come and make sure the gradient icon has been selected. Make sure this icon has been selected. Don't mind if at all the gradient map is showing these other random colors. So don't mind about that. Just come and make sure the icon is selected, and come right here to the gradient map and simply single click on this color option, and it's going to open up the gradient editor. So just come to, and before doing all this, always make sure to first of all hide this layer. So let me repeat this for you. Just come to the gradient icon or the gradient map right here and simply hide it, and make sure the gradient icon is selected, and simply double click to open up the properties. Single click on the color. It's going to open up the gradient editor right here, and simply single click on, you can say this is the darkest point of the skin, and this is going to be representing the brightest point of the skin. Single click on the darkest pointer right there, and simply left click, and before you left click, make sure the sample is set to 5x5 average. So left click on this option or this pointer on the left hand side, open up the color option and simply look for a dark area within the skin tone. So I'm just going to look for a dark color of the skin, click on it and hit OK. Look for the brightest point, single click, and come to the color option and look for the brightest point of the model skin tone, and which point is going to be right here on the nose, and hit OK. Then we are going to click in the middle and make sure we set the location to 50 right there. And after setting it to 50, open up the color editor or click on the color and look for the midpoint color or the midtones, single click and hit OK. And you can see this has copied the colors from the skin of the model right there. And we're just going to come and hit OK. Come back and activate the layer of the gradient map. Change the blend mode from normal and change it all the way down to color right there. And you can see that this is affecting the overall image. So what we want to do, we're just going to come and select the gradient icon right here, or the gradient layer mask, and press Ctrl I on the keyboard. You can use Command I on the keyboard to invert the effect. You're just going to come the brushes and make sure we get the normal brush tool this time around, and make sure the hardness is set all the way to 0. And after doing that, make sure the opacity is set to 100%, flat 100%. The blend mode has to be normal, and we are just going to paint on the skin. And before you paint on the skin, make sure you have black and white on these two color swatches or these two tiny boxes. Or you can reset by pressing D on the keyboard. So make sure white is the foreground color. Or you can use X on the keyboard to put white on top. So with the white brush, we're just going to come and paint on the skin of the model. So remember, we are trying to reveal our color grading that was hidden behind this black mask. So I'm just going to come and just paint on only the model skin, just like that. So I'm just going to paint just like that on the model skin. So you can skip painting on the lips of a model, just paint on only the skin of the model, just like that. So if at all you have painted extras like painting in the hair or even other areas that you don't want to be painted on, you can simply come and refine that by simply switching the brush back to black, and black is going to erase or rub away the extras or the extra color that we have painted in specific areas. So for the eyeshadow, I'm just going to eliminate it from the eyeshadow just like that to keep the original color of the makeup. So I'm just going to switch back to white and continue painting back the color. So if at all you feel like the effect is too much, you can simply come and reduce on the opacity of the overall layer by coming the opacity slider and simply clicking here and reduce and play around with the opacity of your color grading. So right now we are done color grading the skin, and you can see this is the before after. It is not too much and it is really subtle for our case. So what we are going to do next is going to be adding a little bit more of the color grading. So we are going to come right here and simply come and create a black and white adjustment layer, and come to the blend mode and change it from normal to multiply, and come and reduce on the opacity of this layer up to around, I think, 15. Let's use around 11. 11 looks okay. So this is the before after, and it has added that nice and rich contrast to the image. So we're going to come back to selective color and simply intensify the darks or the blacks of this image, just like that, and cool down the blacks by taking down the yellow slider to add that kind of bluish feel to the shadows and cool them a little bit. So right now we are done color grading the image, and we have a very nice skin tone. So you can see, if at all I hold down the alternate key and click on this, you can see before after before after. So next thing is going to be doing some little bit of eye whitening to the eyes of our model in this case. And in order to do eye whitening, we're just going to come and simply create a stamp visible layer. By creating it, you can simply press Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard, or you can use Shift Option Command E for Mac to create a stamp visible layer. And you can now come and zoom into the eyes. So in order to whiten the eyes, let's first of all remove these tiny veins in the eyes by coming and getting the spot healing brush tool. Make sure content aware is selected and the mode is set to normal. We are going to come and start. You click over these veins to eliminate the prominent veins, just like that. You left click and draw over the veins that you want to remove from the eyes, just like that. And you can see he's really doing a pretty nice job for us. So I'm trying to remove these veins that were part of the eyes. Remember, we have first of all created a stamp visible layer. So after doing that, we're just going to come to the hue and saturation adjustment layer and come and make sure master is selected. Come to the saturation and simply desaturate the image around negative 73. That is okay, and this is going to desaturate the eyes, and you can see they already look white, but we have one issue, which is the eyes a little bit, or the skin is pale in this case. So with the white layer mask selected, simply press Ctrl I on the keyboard to invert and come back and get the brush tool with the opacity and the flat 100%. Make sure you have black and white on these two color swatches, or you can use or press D on the keyboard. White is the foreground color. Reduce on the size of your brush, and you can now come and paint on the eyes, and you can see that this is going to whiten or make the eyes white. So I'm just going to paint on only the whites of the eyes, just like that. You can see what this is doing, and you can, by doing this, the eyes have now been whitened. And if I told you to make a mistake, switch the brush back to black, and it is going to rub away that mistake. So we are now done doing the eye whitening, and you can see the image looks nice and beautiful. So after we have done this, the next thing is going to be saving and exporting this very image so that it doesn't change in color when we post it on social media. So I'm just going to first of all add some tiny bit of contrast to this image by coming to the contrast slider and adding tiny bit of contrast to around let's use around 3. And after doing that, we're just going to come and save the image so that it doesn't change in color when we post it or print it out. And this is the best way to do this. So simply come to File, Export, and come to Export As. So when you come to Export As, it's going to open up the Export As dialog box, and this is what you have to put. So the format has to be JPEG because most social media and websites support JPEG files. And make sure you set by the sample size to by cubic sharper, and also come and make sure the color space is set to sRGB and also embed color profile. The reason for this is because we want Photoshop to also embed the colors that we color graded into this very image. And after doing that, we're just going to come right here and simply click on export, and we can rename our image to whatever we want to rename it, and save it in a location that we want, and simply hit save. So when you hit save, it is going to automatically close this dialog box for the export as, and it is going to take back, or it is going to take us back into Photoshop. And this is it for this lesson or tutorial. You can see the before, after, before, after, before, after. So this is it for this video, and if at all you have enjoyed this, simply like this video. And don't forget to subscribe if at all you're watching and you're not subscribed yet to this channel. Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching, and see you in more videos on this channel. Don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.